3, 2, go.
Hello, hello. This is Ignacy Trzewiczek from Portal Games.
And Corey Thompson from Above Board TV Dice Tower Edition Nerdabout.
And this is the Podfather of Gaming, Stephen Bonagor. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 352, and we're recording this on January 14th, 2025. Board Games Insider is proud to be powered by Board Game Geek. How's it going, guys? Good to see everybody again. The band is back together. We stay together. Everything going well?
Absolutely.
Good,
Going
good, good.
good. I don't think you can quite pull off the Board Game Geek deep voice
Well,
there.
I'm not a
Yeah.
professional voice guy like our guy Ray Greenlee or Eric Summer, but I'm trying. I'm trying. Ignacy, take us into the real kind of information that we need to tell our audience what is happening at Portal Games.
Dear audience, probably PortalCon has happened.
Nice.
When,
Yay.
when we are recording, it is not,
Oh,
but hopefully it happened. So over the next few episodes, I'll be discussing what we announced. Because we will announce 6 new products, I will not now be talking for half an hour, talking about all of them. So I will make it in small chunks. So first of all, what we announced at PortalCon is 20 years of Neuroshima Hex. The game was released in 2005, 20 years ago. Still selling, still being evergreen, still being supported by us. So we called 2025 Neuroshima Hex year for our company. We announced a couple of products and different events around the game. And the big announcement was maybe not new edition because we are not changing the rules, but like a new packaging, new print, new version of the base game of Neuroshima Hex that will debut at Essen this year, 2025. New box with amazing cover art, with a rewritten rule book, with new art on the tiles, and with some new interesting mechanism. So just small information on what's inside. I'm a huge fan over the last few years about this new concept in game design. We discussed this in the podcast many times already. These book of maps, books of atlases, like in
Mm.
Gloomhaven, like a Mandalorian, like in Mass Effect, a new game from Eric Lang, like in Thorgal from Portal Games. So we put such an atlas in a Neuroshima Hex as well, and now in the box you will find, besides the regular board of the game, you will find 8 unique boards with unique rules, unique scenarios, unique way of playing, because I really dig this new design space that we have as a designers. So new box of Neuroshima Hex has 8 different variants how you can play the game, and I think it's amazing because it gives so much replayability. So as I said, at PortalCon we had a blast, I think. We announced 6 products, I believe, and one of them was a brand new version of Neuroshima Hex. Once again, it is not a new edition. All the expansions that are already on the market will work with this new game. It is just new packaging and some new ideas added, thrown into the box. So this is one of the things that we announced. More of that, more announcement next week in the next episode.
very
As
cool.
for the street dates and pre-orders, I have a super confusing information, so stay with me.
Good.
After releasing Forgal last year at Essen, and after releasing it to some of the distribution last year in America, because of different turbulences with distribution that we have in America, we are doing another street date and another release to the distribution through PSI, our partner for America. So if in your store, if in your preferred retailer in America, there was no Forgal yet since Essen, hopefully it will be there on
Okay.
January 22nd, because PSI is
Right.
relaunching it through their own distribution channel. So this is like a second
Yeah.
street date for America. Be with me. It's complex, but we are
Yeah.
doing our best.
That PSI would do that for me occasionally as well for things that had slipped under the radar or went out of stock. They call it a VIR, a very important restock or a very important reprint, depending on the what it is. But yeah, that's fairly common. So check out Thorgal in your local game store and ask for it from your local game stores.
And I
Corey.
have one I have
More.
one more silly news. Very short, very silly. Last week I ran a promotion for the game Empires of the North. I don't know how many of our listeners saw this on social media. It
Oh gosh, I
it
saw a
involved
couple of your promos, man.
it involved the word Greenland and other funny words. So I'm going to
I love it.
report that we sold a lot of games with this promotion, and I lost 16 subscribers who felt
Oh
of, offended. So
Offended.
yes, so those of you who follow Portal Games social media or are in my newsletter know what was happening. For those of you who don't know, please subscribe. There is sometimes some silly
Yeah.
promotions, and that was happening last week.
Hey, dude, I have to comment here, dude. The 51st state marketing meme that you put out was pure marketing genius. If you didn't see what Agnasi put out last week, probably it's on X, right? And things like that. Go check it out. 51st state, of course, what Trump has said recently about Canada, and it was genius, Agnasi. Thank you for doing that. Corey, what do you got?
Oh man, well, I got in last night late from Toronto. So had an absolutely amazing time. Stephen and I both were at designer Daryl Andrews' house. He's the designer of Sagrada and literally 100 other games. We had just a wonderful gaming extended weekend at his house, and it was amazing. The food was incredible. So much absolutely delicious food brought to the house. The gaming was over the top. I played Rivers of Gold, which I hadn't played before, which was a fantastic game. I played the new Play to Z titles, Kaleidos and Lynx, which were really good. Kaleidos, fantastic little shedding game, which I thought was amazing. Um, Played Schadenfreude, an older, hard to find trick taker that I thought was just incredible. I'm gonna have to hunt that one down. So many games, I can't even come up with them. And the friends, it's just an endless list
Yeah.
of designer and gaming friends who were in and out of the house. It's a fantastic. We had such a good time. I hope
Yeah.
I'm also speaking for you. Highlights, I did have McDonald's poutine. And one is amazing. Two McDonald's poutines, unfortunately, is a mistake. I was in a little late the next day. But one McDonald's poutine, absolutely
Yeah, you
incredible.
were raving about it. It was actually really good poutine, which poutine for those out there who are not Canadian, because it's only served in Canada, is a how do you describe it? It's a
Poutine is a
potato.
Montreal delicacy of French fries
French.
topped with cheese curd
Yeah, there you
and
go.
brown gravy,
And brown gravy. That's right. You gotta. Oh,
brown
it,
mushroom gravy.
it's very healthy for you, of course. So yeah, very good. So So over here at the Podfather Gaming, as Corey said, I was in Toronto with him at Daryl Andrews' house. It was a really lovely event. Thank you, Daryl, for doing that. I purchased an obscene amount of sushi 2 days in a row because I was just like, I want to do something nice for Daryl and for everybody. And the sushi just started coming in trays from local places. Great Asian food in his area in Markham, outside of Toronto itself. He said that it might say next year if we do it again, sushi sponsored by the Podfather Gaming and hang banners and stuff like that. Great, great time.
Are you going to be a very special guest of
Who knows? Maybe. I want to reiterate what you said about the Play to Z games that I finally got a chance to play. I mean, they're just released. Lynx was a absolute star for me. And it's the funny thing is it's themed in Ontario, which is where we were, themed
Yeah.
in Canada. You are managing the ecosystem essentially. It's very thematic from a historical basis where fur trapping occurs in the 1800s, and then like the lynx population will rise because the rabbit population rises, but then the rabbit population goes down. So it's this whole cycle of life, and selling fur pelts. That's what they did in the 1800s. Really great. And as you mentioned, Kaleidos, a great little card shedding game, and Rivers of Gold from Asmodee was fantastic. So really was a great time. I'm leaving in 2 days for Virginia Beach Virginia, going back up a little bit north, a lot of bit north to the cold weather again, and I am the guest of honor at MarsCon, and that was obviously purposely they asked me to come. I'll be playing games up there, hosting some panels up there. By the time this drops, it'll be over already. So I told you last week you should have like said, "Hey, Monaco, I love your stuff." And I would have said, "Hey, let's get a beer." So if you didn't do that, then it's on you. It's going to be a great fun time. I fly directly from there to New Orleans for another gaming event. It sounds familiar, this whole thing. This is pretty good.
It does. It
This is a
does.
house, kind of convention, house event, which is kind of fun out in New Orleans. And then when I fly back, amazingly, I don't leave the state of Florida during February. Yes, I will be home during February. We're going to have our
Wow.
annual Super Bowl event at my brother's house. Too much wine and much too much gambling and fun things like that. People come in from all over the country now to hang out with him at his house. I might pop in to Fort Myers, Florida, for the game event that's hosted by Joey Evans of the Dice Tower. He's doing it on
Oh,
Friday and
Joey's
Saturday.
fantastic.
Joey's a great guy. So if you do hear this and you know and you're close enough to Fort Myers, Florida, check out the event. You'd have to go onto Facebook. You can reach out to me. I can send you the link. But it's at a church. He asks for a small donation. It's optional, but it's just a great gaming event. Some of the Dice Tower people show up. A lot of great people. Zev is going to show up, I'm sure, because he's 20 minutes away from there. Great, great time. Now we need to get on to the event deck. Amazingly, we have a lot of news this week, and it
I know we
starts,
just said last week that this is traditionally a really low news time,
and it
but
is.
it kind of flooded.
And the first one here is from Stonemaier Games. It's almost a double thing, right? We have Jaime Stegmaier put out a newsletter, a blog post, I guess is probably a better way of putting it, on the Stonemaier Games web page, and it's called "The Current State of GameFound 2025." Obviously, something near and dear to Ignacio's heart, as well as most gamers out there who have been following what's going on between Kickstarter and BackerKit and GameFound. And he says, congratulations to GameFound becoming the biggest crowdfunding platform for board games in 2024, which I did not know. It did eclipse everything. It's an amazing achievement for them to have the most funding in the board game crowdfunding space, including funds from live campaigns, pledge managers, and late pledges just 5 years after
Yeah,
launching.
I'm still not entirely clear if the total income from Kickstarter and GameFound, how they compare. The big number here, which I think is important to note, is 8 out of 10 of the most funded board games were on GameFound. And GameFound has positioned itself to be the larger, heavier source.
Right.
So if there's going to be a multi-million dollar, big, huge, especially sci-fi 4X board game, you're likely to find it on GameFound.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Ignacy if by any chance he's spoken to Marcin, who's the president of GameFound and good friend of Ignacy, if he has released anything about this, because it's just an interesting thing to say GameFound now is beating Kickstarter. That's huge.
Yeah, so I believe so for sure today, exactly today as we are recording, GameFound and Awaken Realms are doing a live stream with the announcement of their 2025
Oh,
releases. So this is their own PortalCon.
Mm.
So I expect them to show some numbers. So I'm very very hopeful that next week when we record we will have more data to show, because I'm pretty confident, and along with announcing new titles, they will brag about GameFound in general and show some numbers. So we need to wait a few more days or a few more hours, and we'll get some data. But for sure, what Corey is pointing out here, for sure they're bragging that the biggest crowdfunding campaigns on GameFound. So
right.
probably Kickstarter still has the biggest volume, so more of the Kickstarters
Oh,
done.
yeah.
But the big successful campaigns are happening at GameFound, and this is exactly what GameFound needs. Like they need to have this success story. If you want to have a big campaign, go to the GameFound, because this is where big money are happening. So that's for sure.
Well, yeah. And if you don't mind, and since you're really in touch with them, maybe for next week you can come and give us some of that
Some
information. That'd be
reporting,
great.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Investigative reporter Ignacy Chevicek on the scene. All
And
right, the
we
next
should
one.
Probably throw in there also that this was a mini interview that Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games did, but also in the Stonemaier front. Stonemaier has recently announced the third and final game in the Wingspan trilogy.
Let's do that.
This
Yeah.
is Finspan, which is related to fish. And of course, the internet was absolutely flooded with jokes and covers about what's coming next. My personal favorite was Stickspan, with just a big picture of a stick on the cover. But in all seriousness, Finspan was a huge announcement, and the news here is that it briefly crashed the Stonemaier website
Nice.
just by its reveal. So Finspan is going to be the lighter game in this Wingspan trilogy, dealing with fish, mostly tropical fish. And it's going to take that 3-layer board and actually treat it as a bottom of the sea, middle of the sea, surface of the sea version. So the fish are going to live in different depths. And it's designed by David Gordon. So this is the designer of Monkey Palace and several others. So it's a very exciting announcement. Wingspan, of course, is such an evergreen for them that anything they announce along those lines is going to be huge.
Fairly
So
amazing that they also
yeah.
gave the total sales figure for Wingspan since release, which is not that long ago. If you think about it, it's only 2019 that it actually was first released. The total sales is 1.9 million units. That's phenomenally big.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's next? We have something here from Let's Play Games. I believe in Australia, and it was they did a 2024 year in review. Ignacy, you put this one in here. What's it all about?
Yeah, so they, as many companies, they summarize the year, and because they give a lot of numbers, and we are board games insider, I decided to bring it up and give you some insight what's happening on different continent than America. And the news is very, very positive. So first of all, they announced that they, let me just check it. Revenue grew by 22%. So once again, as we discussed in this
Tremendous.
podcast, yes, if any business has these numbers, this is a very happy business. So
Yeah.
these numbers are very, very, very good. For other numbers, they shipped 2.5 million items to the retailers because they are distributor that they sell to retailers different items. And the thing that we discuss in this podcast for the past decade about how many games are put every year. So they said the increase of SKU 20%. So there's 20% more products in
Wow.
2024 compared to 2023. So on one hand, we always say more games, more everything, but here are the numbers: 20% more products in the distribution in the last year. Then they said about what was the most important for them. They said for the board games category, it was their best year ever. And this is awesome because I like board games. But then there's a very interesting information, and we were reporting on that as well these past months. So they said the fastest growing category was driven by strong sales in collectible card games, was accessories and all the items for CCGs. So we discussed in this podcast the Disney Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, we have new CCGs, and we have lots of people going back to CCGs, and then they need all these sleeves and all these card boxes and all this different stuff, and it is the fastest growing thing. So insane. And as gentleman said, the article goes on and on and on and on because it's a very very legit summary. So I will not talk more about this with my Slavic accent, but basically in Australia and New Zealand they are doing well. Like the business is good.
Apparently, business there is good. Very, very good. Origins Awards, the categories were announced in their ever uh, they've constantly changed the categories over the years. There was always too many categories. They've tried to come in a little bit, but really not so much. And they first announced the categories, and they had a good number. Excuse me. quite a bit of categories in the board game. It was Gateway Game of the Year. There's going to be Cooperative Solo Game of the Year, Heavy Strategy Game of the Year, Light Strategy Game of the Year, Party Game of the Year, Constructible Game of the Year. Those are our categories, plus miniature categories, plus role-playing categories. Um, um, and then Product of the Year categories and overall recognition, the Game of the Year category. But right after they announced that, they then had to do a correction because the announcement wasn't right. So I love you guys at Gamma. You know I do. I support you. You need to make sure that somebody reviews this stuff before it goes out so that you get it out there once. It's happened in the past. But I still support Gamma's endeavor to create an industry set of awards so that, there's one place that the industry can come and look and do their voting, with a group of people that get the games and do the voting.
Sure.
It's a good one. The Origin Awards are good. They just have had a sordid history, let's call it that.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have complained over the years that the Origins Awards probably might take it a little too far. Too many categories
Yep.
for awards. And it's a really difficult thing to figure out. How many awards is the right number? Spiel des Jahres says 3.
Right.
Kids, adult, kids, expert, and normal. And they all tend towards the light side, so a lot of games get dropped out. Some people wanted more. The Golden Geeks with Board Game Geek has a large number of awards. Origins has even more award categories.
Right. Yeah, they changed the terminology is really what they did when they changed.
Yeah.
They had an announcement, and kind of the product of the year was just wrongly categorized. It's really the constructible game of the year category, and within that, there's going to be a product of the year for randomized constructible games, fixed, the product of the year for fixed constructible games, the starter decks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you get a fixed cards, things like that. LCGs, I guess, would go into that.
Yeah,
category
that's the
too.
reminder is that constructible is LCGs, TCGs, CCGs,
Yeah, right.
and randomized is random booster packs, and then
Right.
fixed are the living card games as Fantasy Flight.
So they had to fix that also. Try to get it right the first time, Gamma. I love you guys.
Steven,
Love you guys.
Steven,
Yes.
be more positive about Gamma, please. Like, stop it.
I am being
Wow.
being very positive. Let's talk about your experience with Nicole Brady, the president of Gamma at Essen. Anyway,
Amazing.
that was great. Nicole spoke to Ignacy, got him on board. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we have for our friends over at GameWire, we have an announcement regarding the Diamant d'Or. That's the name of the award, right?
Yeah. So since we were talking about awards, the French award, the Diamant d'Or, announced their winners, and this is for expert level Euro games. Speaking of like categories of awards, so the winner of the Diamant d'Or was the Diamant d'Or is SETI from Czech Games Edition. Fantastic game. I absolutely love it. And Civolution scored second place. And this is really great. If I had to think of 2 very notable, very good heavy Euro games that came out very recently, those are exactly the 2 that I would pull out.
Yeah.
So SETI's the winner.
It's very interesting. I mean, people had at one point years ago, 5 years ago or so, they decried the end of the heavy Euro. Heavy Euros, aren't going to sell anymore. And I think it's exactly the opposite. Heavy Euro games in particular are doing really well in the market if you can get past that, there's 2,000 games out there. If you can get past the noise level of all the other games, the heavy Euros are doing very well. And those are 2 games that are getting played all over. I saw them getting played several times this past weekend at Daryl's house.
Yeah. The third place was Vital Lacerda's Inventions, Evolution of Ideas. And there's been about 10 years of this heavy Euro game, Diamant d'Or. Last year's winner was Darwin's Journey from Luciani and Mangione.
Very cool. Very cool. Couple of quick ones here. There was a port strike in the U.S. that was about to happen, which therefore would have meant everybody was going to not get their games, at least ones on the East Coast, because that's where it was going to hit, I believe, the most. That has been averted. So congratulations to cooler heads, and we will not be striking for the ports in the U.S. Games can flow, as well as all other products. And I reported last week about the Embracer Reverse stock split, and I want to just give out a couple of interesting pieces of information. As of actually today, this is the last day of trading for the old shares, the first day of trading for the new
Today
shares.
being January 14th, a week
Yes.
before you listen to
Yes.
this.
Yes, it's before you listen. So by the time you hear this, all this will have been happened already. And tomorrow, well, which is already gone, if you own, it's called the record date. If you've owned shares, this is going to happen. And I gave a quick example that I'll just going to say it. You can re-listen to it if you want to hear the mathematics. If you own 600 shares at the current price of about $2.70 a share, you'd end up with 100 shares of Asmodee, 100 shares of Middle Earth Enterprises, and 100 shares of the digital company, Digital and Comics, I think they're together. And you'd own it at a higher price of $5.40 approximately, because the final price is arbitrated by the market. It comes out, and then the market determines, hey, maybe, hey, everybody wants Asmodee, so that one will run up, and nobody wants Middle Earth Enterprises, and that one will run down. So approximately that's how it's going to work. Should you buy? Well, consult your financial advisor. And please note that I am not a financial advisor. And if I was a financial advisor, I'm not your financial advisor.
Because he's my financial advisor.
I am specifically not your financial advisor because you've made some bad investments. Anyway, we have something about Heroscape announcing Heroscape Store Championship Program. Corey, this must be
Yeah.
yours.
I just thought it was interesting. Heroscape has had a little bit of a tumultuous history. Beloved classic game from Avalon Hill. It went through a revamp through Hasbro's own crowdfunding system, Pulse, and they gave up on it. It did not meet its goal. It raised a lot of money, but it did not meet the goal they announced. So they said it's dead, and it just dropped it. And then I'm going to say about a year later, it was picked up by Renegade when Renegade picked up all of Avalon Hill's products for distribution. Avalon Hill, the classics like Axis and Allies and all this stuff. So Renegade has now announced that its 2025 Heroscape Store Championship program, that is events to be held between May and June 2025, is all structured, and it'll be the Heroscape Battle Network stores. So there's kits that include 24 sets of Aquila themed order markers for participation prizes. Other prizes are silver base Iwashia minis, foil army cards, and one extra for the judge or the organizer. So if you're really into Heroscape, look for one of these Heroscape Store championships. There's going to be about 200 championship games worldwide during 2025.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Great game. Glad they brought it back. Hey, this is a really important one for the hobby, of course. Monopoly is getting a major overhaul in 2025 and adding expansions built for speed. All right, which one?
I think this is an amazing story because it shows that the mass market side of the industry is trying to be more like hobby, just like recently hobby is trying to be more like mass market. So Monopoly, of course, we can't even compare. There's a statistic that's both really interesting and a little frightening, that if you take every single hobby board game sold, it still doesn't match Monopoly. It's been around forever. Hasbro sells an absolute bajillions of them. And this, as far as I know, is the first time there's been an expansion announced for mass market classic games. So there's a couple expansions that have been announced. One of them is, of course, just the home rules, house rules, where free parking works like people all play free parking, whereas in the actual printed rules from the original, none of this is in there. It speeds up the game. So it's going to be multiple SKUs. So in detail, Monopoly Free Parking Jackpot Expansion. It is a slight variation of the traditional house rule that deals with luxury tax and free parking, but it also adds a spinner to the board to add some randomness. And then the Monopoly Go to Jail expansion removes, this is a weird one for me, but it removes some of the punishment of actually being sent to jail. It adds expansion cards that are only available to convicted felons. That one cracked me up. And then there's a Monopoly Buy Everything expansion, which literally puts everything in the game up for sale, including the bank.
What?
So, yeah, that's the tagline.
Oh my gosh.
Everything for sale. So
Uh,
I find it just absolutely amazing that Hasbro is making expansions for Monopoly.
so we have a quote here from the person that was interviewed. It says, his name is Baker. I don't have his first name right here, but it says, we don't necessarily need to sell more monopolies. Most people already own Monopoly. What we're looking for is a reason to play it again. So thank you, Hasbro, for understanding that there's no reason to be playing Monopoly. There's so many better games. But if you can make a better, if you can make a better version of it, well, then sure,
You
maybe you will
can't
get people.
understate the importance of Monopoly in our hobby. You really
Yeah,
can't.
it's absolutely true. Let's
Mhm.
do it.
I strongly disagree. But I am a part of the industry and I don't want to be sued by Hasbro. But I would argue that Monopoly make more people hate board games than make people love board games. Like I believe there's more people who played Monopoly and said, "Never again I want to play board game because it's long and boring," than people who played Monopoly and said, "That's awesome. Let me find more games."
It's this is a question worthwhile to talk about maybe in a playtesting segment. Like has it been a net of positive or negative? But let's table it for now and maybe we'll talk about it at some other point.
Let's save me from the lawyers from
Save
Hasbro.
you
We'll
from the
fight it out in the ring. That's what we'll do.
Here's the last one we have here. Chaosium is celebrating 50 years with convention support. And you can get
Wow.
$500 worth of Chaosium products for free in their 50th anniversary convention support pack. Who put this one in here? And who knows about this?
That's
Ignacy.
Ignacy.
Oh, Mr. Ignacy, what is going on
Ignacy
here?
loves Chaosium.
That's insane promotion to celebrate a big anniversary. I'm watching closely what Chaosium is doing this year because I'm a role player. Call of Cthulhu was my second role-playing game played ever, so I have lots of warm feelings about this game. So I'm watching there closely, and this promotion that they are starting is absolutely insane. I never heard about this something like that in our industry. So if you are a convention organizer, if you are running any convention, local convention, we're not talking about the big Gen Con, we are talking local average convention. And there is a form you can apply with answering some questions and giving your information about your convention. And Chaosium will pack ton of products for your convention, and they say, do with that whatever you want. Like this was the most insane for me part of the whole announcement. They said you can give it away for the prices, you can give it to your staff that is doing demos. Like do whatever you want. Let this
Yeah.
product work for itself. Like we want people to have these products at hands and enjoy it. This is amazing.
And with that, and with the product they're sending, they're also going to give you like convention scenarios to play in all of their RPGs. So like if somebody
That is
wants
so
to
cool.
run a Call of Cthulhu scenario, you get the book, you got the scenario, and you just run it. Maybe who knows, the best player gets the book at the end or something. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So you're going to be getting like 10 books approximately. I actually looked at the stack they're showing here. Basic role playing, Universal Game Engine, RuneQuest, the
Pendragon of
Glorantha.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's like at least 10 products, $50, 10 products, that's $500, man. That's pretty cool. So,
So last year I was celebrating 25 years of Portal games, and Chaosium came and said, "Bro, it's 50 for us," and it's amazing. And congratulations to the anniversary. I hope they will have a blast this year with this and other events they are preparing.
right,
That is
very,
amazing.
very cool. So I think we went pretty long today with the news because there was so much and we wanted to get through
Oh
it
yeah.
because next week might be a special episode of predictions. Maybe we should do it. I think we're going to do it. So we're not going to do strategy and tactics this week. Let's get over to playtesting. All right. Corey, it must have been your question. It was your question here in playtesting. You gave us a question. What was that question? Tell us.
So I asked, do you own a board game too valuable to play? Also, related, what is the most rare board game you own? Now, what's really interesting here is I wrote this question a while ago. We had it in the show notes a while. Literally 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I brought out my copy of Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, which is a foil copy, and I believe there's only 12 of those printed.
12?
And the people who played it were furious with me because it was not sleeved, and they forced me to sleeve it right
Enough.
there as they played. So
I'm not
obviously the
sleeving.
answer for me is I don't have any game that's too rare or too valuable
I'm
to
not
play.
sleeving mine. So yeah, and I was both Corey and I were gifted a deck of foils for the game because we were so excited and we were talking about it and we played it. So Bree Woodward over at Asmodee, thank you so much.
Yeah,
She gave it to
huge
us.
thanks, Bree.
Yeah, yeah, she's amazing. So thank you for that. And I'm not going to sleeve mine either because I play my games. That's a thing for me. Did
And
anybody notice any?
that was the overwhelming answer in here, which I was a little surprised about. I know quite a few board game collectors who are very protective of their valuable games, but overwhelmingly people in the answers said games are for playing. There is nothing too rare, too valuable for me to not put out on the table.
Agreed on that one. Agreed on that one. We did have some people who said yes. Ann W., good friend of the show, she said, yes, I own an original printing of the mass market Buffy the Vampire Slayer game. I have that. Still in shrink with the KB Toys $7.99 price tag on it. Could I get $7.99 for it today? I doubt it, but this was the first fully nerd culture game that I loved. I would never unbox it, even though I know you could probably find another copy in the bottom of a thrift store bin. Actually, Anne, you can't. And that is rare. The original Buffy the Vampire Slayer game is very rare. That game, I guarantee, and I haven't looked this up at all. That game, I bet you can get at it was $8 then. I guarantee you can get at least $80 for it now. I bet. I can go look it up later. Go ahead.
So Peter Woken had a really lovely, no game is too valuable to play. I still have hardcore Magic the Gathering fans who wince when I bridge shuffle my drafted deck with no sleeves. And the best part about this is Arno van der Kwast immediately replied, I wince even reading this post.
That is great. And then there was a slew of no, right? John Canas. No, I don't think there's a game in my collection that I would consider too valuable to play. I don't know that I really have anything truly rare. Probably the most valuable is an original copy of HeroQuest that I picked up at a local Goodwill in 2007, but I've certainly played with it. Um, Kevin Martin, just the opposite. I have a couple of very expensive games, Frosthaven and Foundations of Rome, that I need to play as much as possible to better justify the cost. There you go.
If I may add, I think this question was a little bit too hardcore, like too variable to even play the game. And people say, yes, we have the games to play. But because if we change this question a little bit, so if there are any game that is so valuable that when you play it, you are rather conscious to not destroy it, then maybe the answer will be much different. For instance, I have my
Mhm.
beloved game called Mall of Horror from back then from Asmodee when it was a small French company. And it is impossible to buy this game these days. Like this is a out of print the game that I bought in 2006 or 5, many years ago. I love it. I played once a year at my birthday. It is like a tradition of my birthday. So if this game got destroyed, if something happens to this game, it will be very sad moment for me because
Uh,
it's my life tradition to play it once a year for my birthday. But of course, I played. I played once a year at the birthday. I played.
Sure.
yeah, I just like the fact that, most people here are saying games are meant to be played. Kirk W., the corset maker. I think I've already sold my rarest game, Dawn Patrol, to someone who I hope is playing it. Probably the next most rare is Pret-a-Porter. And I play
Thank you.
that every chance I get. It's such a great game, and the newest, latest edition is so beautiful. And as almost everyone has said, games are meant to be played. About the only game I could imagine having that might be too valuable to play would be a mint original edition of Glory to Rome, which I don't have. So I like it. I like the fact that this
Oh,
is this is a
yeah.
this is really nice the way people kind of put it. So Corey, what did you come up with us for this show for next week's conversation?
This actually came up quite a lot. In Toronto, we were talking about this, and a lot of people had strong opinions. So the question is, when playing games with small children, should you let them win? There's a couple big schools of thought on this. Should you play not completely optimally so that you give them a chance to win? Or a lot of people feel that in somewhat of a life lesson, should you just play all out and teach the lesson of this is how you win, and more importantly, learn this is how you lose? Should you just play all out to win as you would with any other game or treat them no different?
Ignacy, do you have an opinion on this one?
Obviously, yes. So first of all, silly story. My daughter, who she's now 17, and she has birthday today.
Oh, happy
Hey,
birthday.
happy
Happy
Very
birthday.
birthday!
nice.
And so she's quite often saying that when I was young, you were beating me with all the games. I had to wait for years to finally win something. So yes, I was not giving her to win the game. So this is from my personal experience. In general, my belief is that in German award, Kinderspiel des Jahres, is one of these awards that gives respect to the games that are designed the way that kid has a chance to win against the adult
Yeah.
because
Oh,
it needs
yeah.
dexterity or memory, and kids have better memory or other things that you
Yeah.
as an adult are doing your best, and the kid has still a chance to kick your ass, and this is so fulfilling moment for them to many. So there was many games like that when I was when my kids were small, and we played a lot of these German games for kids, and they're super well designed
Yeah.
has a chance against the father or mother. So this
Right.
is the best solution.
Agree
And otherwise,
100%.
I don't let them win. Like I may change a setup, I may change a little bit the different the starting position, so it is more difficult for me. But then when we play seriously.
Yeah. So I don't have children. I don't often play with children, but my thought would be that I would not try to crush. I would not just play it all out. But neither would I just let them win. I think that it is good to see that competition can be fun, right? And it does say, hey, you can get better at this and then beat an adult. So, right, most games are not
Yeah.
the Kinderspiel des Jahres level games where they are made for the kids and kids can beat adults. They can. I've seen it happen many times. Most games, are that 8 plus, 7 plus game. You can play with your kids. You're going to be better at it than them. I think I'd be in that middle. Like I'd play not perfectly and maybe handicap myself a little bit to give them a
Yeah.
chance to win. That's how I would view it.
One of the really important things about this, and this goes along with just playing with new gamers or playing with someone who hasn't played a lot, is if you absolutely devastate someone the first time they're playing a board game, they're not going to like the game. They're not going to
Yep.
like the
Yep.
experience. So to perpetuate the hobby, you want to play in a friendly manner.
Sure.
But that kind of occurs naturally when I play games with children or play games with very, very novice gamers, in that I will spend most of my effort helping them learn the game, helping them play to their optimal. And I tend to forget about playing my side. So I do, well, let me put out there that I tend to lose games in general anyway. And then on top of that, I lose a little more often when I'm teaching because I really want the other people to feel that joy that I feel playing the game and understanding the game and doing their personal best.
Very, very cool. Well, right now, Ignacy is creating a thread on Board Game Geek with this week's playtesting question. Please go over to the guild, find that playtesting thread, and answer the question. And maybe we'll talk about it next week. Now, let's go to final scoring. Thank you so much for listening, and help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts, or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of this podcast? You can go over to the Guild, sign up, ask us questions for strategy and tactics, and answer our question to you from the playtesting segment. It's easy. You're all smart. Go do it. Please interact with us on social media. It's the same handle on all the platforms, whether you want to use Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, or YouTube. It's at Portal Games US, at Board Games Insider, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish, at Play to Z Games, at Above Board TV, and at Nerd About Show. Follow us on the social media network of your choice and speak directly to us on those platforms. And check out our websites as well, which also go by the same names. Special call out, of course, to the YouTube channels, which are the ones that are most important to us. That's Portal Games Studio, the Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV, all on YouTube. We'd love to see you in person at upcoming convention. We're in the lull season now, so if I didn't see you at MarsCon, it's going to be a little while. I'll see some friends maybe at the Gamma Expo. I maybe am making that. I'm on the fence, but maybe I'm going. And then, of course, right after that is Dice Tower West, where I love and I'll be seeing people there. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Jake Thompson. Thank you, Jake, for being part of the team. Also, that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee. Contact him to do voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. So news for next week or anything? I see Corey, I bet, put that little piece there, and that's a very good shout out that we should be giving.
So I just wanted to mention a little bit about the fires down in Los Angeles. I live in Los Angeles part-time, and a lot of people have reached out. Thank you so much. I'm doing fine. The film studio for Above Board and my house in Los Angeles so far have been safe for the fires, but a lot of other places are not. The fires have been devastating. 14,000 acres so far destroyed, still ongoing. As of this morning, it's about 30% contained. So I just wanted to send my personal best wishes to everyone out there. We're doing what we can at the studio. I've got an amazing team of people helping out friends and family who are being evacuated or moved or have lost things. And anybody out there, if you want to help out, there are a number of organizations out there who are taking donations and helping for the fires. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's reached out to me. I'm the least of the affected people, but things are going okay on my side.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. It's a real tragedy what's going on. Will end up being the largest natural disaster of all time. Most likely because of the amount of homes, very expensive homes, right on the coast that were hit. So, good luck to everybody out there. One brighter note is that next week we plan on doing our predictions episode. So hopefully you're going to enjoy that. That's one of everyone's favorite episode of the year. We talk about how badly we predicted what happened in 2024, and we predict dumb things for 2025. Hopefully we get some of it right. Thank you everybody for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care, everyone.